Hello, 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 once again, all my fellow patriots and you filthy leftist stalkers out there. You're listening to Angela's Soapbox. I'm Angela Box. New setup. Huzzah and huzzah. I put everything in front of my window. I was like, what kind of crack was I smoking to not have everything in front of my window? And now that I do, I'm like, this is so much better. Okay, it's going to be a bit of a shorter show today, but there are definitely a few things on my radar that I wanted to discuss with everybody because honestly, unless you're on Twitter all the time, or Gateway Pundit, or Breitbart, or Revolver News, you don't know any of this crap. So, obviously, the deep state is doing the most to push Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, and as I'm taping this tonight, is going to be the big interview with CNN. It's like, this dumb heifer, this literal and political whore that is Kamala Harris, and her communist jazz hands, light and the loafers running mate Tim Walz. By the way, am I the only one who thinks that Tim Walz might have a touch of the gay? But that's just me. I don't think that's just me. I think everyone's like, this guy's definitely taken it up the pooter at some point in his life. But I digress. Anyway, Kamala Harris is going to be sitting down with CNN tonight for a softball interview with droopy dog face Dana. Dana Bash. And you know that these questions are just going to be softball city. In fact, the New York Times, let me open this up here. The New York Times earlier this week was like, hey, Kamala, we know that you're the most obviously best person that's ever run for president. And it's hilarious also, the New York Times is saying things like, why is the Kamala campaign, why does it feel different than Hillary Clinton's campaign? Because obviously they're two very accomplished women who oral sex played a very large part in their career trajectories, if you think about it, because obviously Kamala Harris was the mistress of a disgusting old man named Willie Brown when she was 30 years old and he was 60, and that's how she got her start into politics. There's no dispute about this. This 100% happened. And then obviously Hillary Clinton's husband has proclivities with young women, including Monica Lewinsky, who famously was giving him oral sex under the Oval Office desk. But anyway, it is funny that if you think about it, BJs were very integral to the career trajectory of both these heifers. Anyway, all right, so the New York Times the other day was like, we're going to give you some cheat sheets, Kamala, because even though we know you're super, super smart, and obviously you'd sit down with the media, but you're very busy running a full throttle campaign to the American people while she's running away from the Biden-Harris record. And before I get to some of these stupid questions that the New York Times gave her the other day in their morning bulletin, just basically here you go, Madam Vice President. Here are some of the things that those mean media people might ask you. It's been about still, 38, 39 days that Kamala Harris has not sat down and done an interview. So we got to give the sea turtle killing plastic straw to the media because they think you're retarded. That's kind of going to be the overarching theme of today's show. They literally think you're retarded. So let's talk about that. Okay, before I get to the New York Times, there was a Politico story that got community noted like nobody's business. It's so great that Elon took Twitter over, and I've said this many, many times. Elon X buying Twitter, turning it into X, is going to be one of those linchpin moments in history where people were like, it was this moment that things started to change and things started to turn around, because look what they're trying to do to the founder of Telegram. They've arrested him for misinformation. They're throwing people in jail in the UK for posting saucy memes. They're being 100% tyrannical. And they know that they've got to control the narrative. They got to control what people see. And that's why they're clamping down on free speech so hard, because Twitter exists. Twitter turned into X, and it's now a free speech platform. And they're like, well, we can't have that. So anyway, Politico the other day posted this tweet, and it basically said that J.D. Vance in a rally the other day was, quote, tethering Kamala Harris to the Biden administration. And Community Notes was like, it's literally the Biden-Harris administration. It's hilarious, isn't it? Like, she's in a real pickle here. Because obviously the Biden administration, the Biden-Harris administration, is completely toxic. We know that Joe Biden ain't running the country, all right? He's off on a beach somewhere, taking a nap, living his best life in his last few years, months, days left on this earth, whatever. By the way, Joe Biden, soon you will meet your maker, and you will have to answer for all of the things you have done in this life. But I digress. Joe Biden's not running the country. Kamala Harris isn't running the country, but there's this pesky little thing of her having her name in the Biden administration. And Joe Biden saying, I hired Kamala Harris because of DEI, and I hired Kamala Harris because I believe in diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is why I hired Kamala Harris, even though she had no business being vice president. So Community Notes just went to town on Politico. It's like, this is the height of gaslighting, okay? So obviously Dana Bash's job tonight, as I'm taping this, like I said, I'm taping this on a Thursday. The interview is going to happen tonight. Dana Bash's number one job is to save Kamala Harris, is to make Kamala Harris look good. Kamala Harris is such a lightweight, is such a literal and political whore who word salads her way through anything, that she has to have her trusty white guy sidekick with her. I thought she was a strong black woman. I thought she was an African-American woman who, why, she can do the job on day one. Well, this is how little either her people or Kamala Harris herself thinks of herself, because she knows she's a dummy. And I said this last week in last week's show, she's an imposter of the highest level. On the highest level, she knows that all she did was sleep with a bunch of people in California in order to get her start into California politics. She was a second-rate ADA in the prosecutor's office. She's like, oh, I prosecuted drug dealers and drug offenders. It's like, lady, you threw black men into prison for having weed, all right? And then you kept them in prison longer than their prison sentences in order to get free labor out of them. So is that really the route you want to go? But anyway, whatever. She was a literal and political whore. She blew her way through California, slept her way through California Democrat politics. She knows she's an imposter. She's not a smart woman, but she is a naked political whore is what she is. She knows she can't sit down and answer really tough questions. So when I get back from the break, I'm going to take a quick break and go through some of these questions that the New York Times basically were a bunch of gimmies to Kamala Harris. Like, hey, lady, here's some questions that the mean media might ask you, and be ready for them. So, y'all, this is going to be really something to behold. Like, they're acting like that she's pulling within striking distance of Trump, or she's ahead of him in certain swing state polls, and yet other polls are like Trump is seen as a leader, a strong leader. Kamala Harris is seen as a weak leader, like a polar opposite. Like 53% see Trump as a strong leader, 51% say Kamala Harris is a weak leader. 53% say that Trump believes what he is saying. 53% say Kamala Harris is just saying what people want to hear. Like, make it make sense. How is she now ahead of Trump in the swing state polls, and yet in other polls, she's seen as a complete buffoon? Again, make it make sense. We'll talk about all this when we get back. You're listening to Angela's Soapbox. I'm Angela Box. Be right back. Hi there. Welcome back to Angela's Soapbox. By the way, cut my hair a little bit, cut a couple inches. What does everyone think if you're seeing it? Fred's like, I like it, but I liked it longer. And I'm like, honey, I needed a haircut. Like, it was getting Scraggle City. I'm probably going to grow it like another inch and then leave it there and just have her dust it. My hairdresser is known as the Blonde Whisperer of River Oaks. Her name's Katarina, and she is amazing. She saved my hair from literal straw, like legit straw that it was, 7-8 years ago. Okay, let's get to some of these hilarious questions that the New York Times is going to be spoon feeding Kamala Harris, basically saying, Kamala, get ready, because after Dana Bash, you're going to have to go into the debates. And on a side note of that, she's trying to get out of the debates now. She wanted all the rules changed. The rules were, now keep in mind, remember these rules. They were set up to help Joe Biden. Joe Biden can't have an audience in front of him. He'll be like, Joe Biden completely collapsed in the debate. And obviously, everything that we witnessed after the debate is because Joe Biden collapsed. Anyway, the rules in the debate were, we need to have microphones muted, we need to have an audience-free thing, and it needs to be friendly moderators, which it was CNN, it was Jake Tapper and Dana Bash, and they basically, oddly enough, were not as biased as I thought they were going to be. Like, I feel like maybe they got the memo of, we've got to make sure that Joe Biden is exited stage left after this debate. Like, I think that was their job, and they did it well. Anyway, the debate's going to be with ABC. Like, that's the only debate Kamala Harris wants to do. Trump's like, let's do a Fox debate. Let's do a CNBC debate. Like, let's talk about actual things of substance that matter. Not like Orange Man bad and abortion up to 9 months. Like, let's have a discussion about your economic policy, which you're getting laughed off the financial stage with. Because every time you send some surrogate out, they're like, this is like 6th grade socialism, communism stuff. Like the stuff that Tim Walz taught his kids in high school. These things don't work in the real world. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I have any clue about the financial world, because I don't. That's my fiance's forte. And he, as I say, he has a lizard brain about this stuff. But CNBC was like, you sound retarded. Like, you literally sound retarded. What are these price controls you're talking about? What are these capital gains taxes of 44% or 28% corporate tax rate that's just going to be passed on to the consumer? Because corporations don't pay taxes. They just pass it on to the consumer. And again, anybody with an over 7th grade understanding rudimentary economics knows this. I'm a dummy about this stuff, okay? And even I know this. All right, let's get to some of these stupid questions. It's so funny. Madam Vice President, your agenda revolves around helping the middle class, such as offering a credit of up to $25,000 for first-time home buyers and increasing the child tax credit. Stolen from Donald Trump, by the way. Because remember when she said, oh, Trump's going after childless people who don't have kids, and he wants to punish people who don't have children. She's such an asshole. Anyway, you haven't said much about some big related issues, though, including paid leave and universal preschool. Will you try to revive President Biden's plans? So basically saying, hey, Kamala Harris, here's a nice little layup for you. Here's some here's a setup for you to basically say, I'm gonna try. And I'm going to give homebuyers $25,000 and make sure that they get free housing, and we're going to build 3 million homes. Just pull it out of our asses and just have all this money. We're just going to print more money, and we're going to build all these homes. And by the way, we're going to be giving some to illegal aliens because the Biden administration is doing that now. The administration that Politico says that J.D. Vance is trying to tether you to, the one with your name in it. Anyway, it's such a ridiculous thing. Oh, universal preschool. So stupid. Anyway, the Democrats know, the communists know, the Marxists know, if you can get the kids, if you can get them early, if you can get them in the womb, if the kids make it out of the womb, I should add, if you can get them as early as possible with these ridiculous ideas, then you're going to have them for life. Anyway, let's listen to this. Listen to this one. Biden has been more populist than other recent Democrat presidents. He's skeptical of free trade and has subsidized manufacturing. Are you as populist as he is? Or are there any policy areas in which you would return to a more market-friendly neoliberal approach? It's so... How is Joe Biden a populist, ladies and gentlemen? How is he a populist? He has literally decided that he's going to punish innovation, punish energy production in this country. He's going to throttle businesses from actually doing things that would benefit the American people. He's trying to make government decide the winners and losers of everything. Again, raising tax rates, making sure we're not energy independent, opening the border, printing money. These are not populist ideas. These are communist ideas. No matter what the idiots and the literal Marxist idiots, retards, sorry, yes, I said it, say at the New York Times, no matter what they say, doesn't make it so. These are pie in the sky ridiculous. Let's see. Let me see this one. Oh, here's a good one. Would you support eliminating the filibuster to pass the bill that restores nationwide abortion rights? So here's what they want to do with that. This filibuster idea. Chuck Schumer's like shown his ankle on this. You know, Kamala Harris is dumb, but she's smart enough to know that she can't be let off the leash and answer questions from the media. Like, she's dumb and she's smart. Like, she knows that the longer she can not do press conferences, the media is going to allow her to do this, just like Joe Biden campaigned from the basement. The media is going to be like, all right, you know, we'll just wink, wink, nod, nod. Be like, oh, Kamala Harris, what are you going to talk to the media? But they don't really want her to talk to the media, because if she does talk to the media, she's going to look like a moron. All right. So they're perfectly fine to be the Praetorian Guard in front of Kamala Harris, who's a literal Potemkin village herself. Again, she's an imposter. If you don't know what a Potemkin village is, during the Soviet Union, they would try and bring people in from the West to be like, look how great communism is. And they would put these like storefronts up, these fake storefronts, and they wouldn't let people go further back in the town. They'd be like, oh, here's how well the town is going and how well communism is doing in this town. When in reality, behind the scenes, it was a disaster. So she's a Potemkin village. So this idea that they want to get rid of the filibuster would basically mean if they get the House, the Senate, and the presidency, we're done. Like, sayonara, we're finished. She's going to get her gun control, which means she's going to eliminate the rest of the Bill of Rights. Like, you give up your guns, you eliminate everything else. This Trojan horse of abortion that the Democrats are trying to do is just a way to get everything else they want, because they're trying to appeal to women's emotions, essentially, saying that women are one-issue voters, and you know the most important thing to women is to be able to kill your baby in the womb. Like, that's it, man. If we can do that, that's all we care about. Like, that's how little Democrats and the media think of women. They think that women don't have two brain cells to rub together. They're just like Pavlov's dog with abortion. Okay, so basically what they want to do is get rid of filibuster, using abortion rights as the Trojan horse to do that. Now, Donald Trump has said, and J.D. Vance co-signed this, he was like, listen, stop trying to act like Trump wants a national abortion ban. He does not. He has said it goes back to the states, which is what the Dobbs decision did. It sent abortion back to the states. Now, if you media types are dishonest, which they are, they're dishonest enough, they're going to run around and say that, you know, Project 2025, which wants to ban abortion, whatever Project 2025 wants to do, which frankly, 90% of it, most conservatives are like, yeah, I want to do that. Yes, I would like to eliminate the Department of Education. 100% I would like to do that. But even if the Republicans in the Senate and the House put forward an abortion ban, J.D. Vance said, yeah, Trump's going to veto that. So this idea that the New York Times has to, you know, again, lob up a softball question to Kamala Harris. Oh, would you get rid of the filibuster to make sure we have access to abortion all over the country up to 9 months? Yes, I would do that. Stupid. One more thing before we go to the break, because this is so stupid. I mean, just, of course. Again, Dana Bash's job, I guarantee you, ladies and gentlemen, Dana Bash is going to take some of these questions that the New York Times has delivered to Senator Knee Pads and Tampon Tim on a silver platter, and she's going to ask these questions. And of course, Comrade Kamala and Tampon Tim are going to have ready-made answers to these questions. All right, here's one that's just so stupid. All right, Donald Trump can sound unhinged. How? Listen, I sound unhinged. Donald Trump does not sound unhinged. I sound unhinged in the fact that I speak with a lot of passion. I don't care. I'm going to say the R word. I'm going to say things are gay and stupid and retarded and whatever. Like, clutch your pearls elsewhere, okay? Donald Trump does not sound unhinged. Donald Trump sounds like a regular person. He sounds like me. He sounds like you. He sounds like people that are pissed off that, I don't know, Venezuelan gangs are taking over apartment complexes like they are in Aurora, Colorado. Yeah, armed Venezuelan gangs are taking over just apartment complexes. Like, the owners of these apartment buildings are having to shut everything down and kick all these residents out because illegal aliens have taken them over. Anyway, I digress. He sounds like everybody else does. Pissed off and finished and done with this bullshit. That's how Donald Trump sounds. If that's unhinged, well, I will co-sign that we are all unhinged. Anyway, here it is. Donald Trump can sound unhinged, telling frequent lies and rejecting basic democratic traditions. Yet millions of Americans, including more voters of color than in the past, support him. Why do you think so many people are frustrated enough that they find Trump appealing? Hey, guess what, New York Times? Donald Trump won the 2020 election, okay? You had to shut everything down at 10:30 at night. You had to shove in ballots at 1:30 in the morning and then pretend that everyone wakes up in the morning and Joe Biden is suddenly ahead when he was trailing by 500,000 votes in, for example, Michigan or wherever it was. We know what you did in 2020, okay? So the reason that you think the American people sound unhinged, which it's not Trump. Trump has said from the jump, in reality, they're after you. I'm just in the way. So if you want to say that Donald Trump sounds unhinged, then guess what? All of us sound unhinged because you have been lying to us and gaslighting us for 4 years, pretending that Donald Trump did not win the 2020 election, pretending that this sack of potatoes who didn't campaign and the woman who is a literal and a political whore who didn't campaign and who's not answering questions now from the media and refuses to do a press conference, you want to pretend that these juggernauts are somehow what the American people want? No, it's not. So spare me the BS, spare me the ridiculous notion that he's unhinged, because no, we're just done. Ladies and gentlemen, we're just done. And people of color, listen, more black men especially are running and fleeing from that Democrat plantation because they're starting to like put some things together. And in the next segment, we're going to talk about some of the things that people of color are putting together that the Democrat Party has done to them over the past, 60 years, 70 years. We're going to talk about those things when we get back. All right, you're listening to Angela's Soapbox. We're going to get to other stuff in the next segment, I promise, because Jack Smith's back. We got all kinds of stuff. COVID's back. I'm going to talk about Tulsi Gabbard. All kinds of stuff going on. You're listening to Angela's Soapbox. I'll be right back. Welcome back to Angela's Soapbox. Okay, so let's discuss a few other things going on here. There's a really funny Daily Beast article that I want to get to, and I will get to it. But it's funny because, as I mentioned, Kamala and Tim are going to sit down tonight with Dana Bash, and Dana Bash has one job to make her look good. The American people, look, the media, the masters of the universe types, they seem to forget. They think they can gaslight us to the point where we're not going to realize or remember that in 2020, most of us who are Trump voters, most of us understand that the 2020 election was stolen, okay? So all the things that they're doing to try and pretend that Joe Biden is beloved and Kamala Harris is, she's just a strong black woman and she's going to be the first female president. Oh, I went off on a tangent. I want to get back to something the New York Times was talking about yesterday in their bulletin, and I was going to click on it, but I was like, no, it's behind a paywall. I'm not dealing with it, whatever. I'm just going to make an assumption as to what they're talking about. The headline was essentially, why is Kamala's campaign, why does it feel different than Hillary's campaign? And everyone's like, with the the chance of I'm with her, 8 years ago, somehow feel different. Well, of course, it all has to do with abortion, because abortion rights are the only thing women think about, evidently, according to Democrats. And so, they're like, basically, it's an apocalyptic vision that if Trump gets back in the White House, it's just going to be the most horrible thing in the world, I guess, for abortionists or whatever. Even though Trump has said, I will veto an abortion ban. Let's keep it in the states, whatever. It doesn't matter. They lie. So, the last 12 out of 16 years have been Democrat control, right? We had 4 years of peace and prosperity and good things. And even with everything they threw at Trump, he managed to kick ass and take names in this country. And so they're really afraid that if Trump wins, that we're going to go back to normal. And the people are going to be like, wait a minute. I remember feeling like this years ago when I felt pride in my country. I felt happy about my job. I felt happy about my family's prospects in this world. And I feel safe and secure, and we're not getting into any wars. And on that note, Tulsi Gabbard this week, in addition to Kennedy last week, said she came out and she's endorsing Trump. So we've got two anti-establishment Democrats now supporting Trump. And Kennedy has said that there's going to be more to come. Like, there's going to be more. Trust me, there's more to come. And Tulsi Gabbard's reasoning, one of her big reasons, her video that she put out, I thought was really thoughtful. I've always liked Tulsi Gabbard. And honestly, I feel like, if Tulsi's going to be on the Trump team, which he has signaled that she is, along with Kennedy, I think Tulsi needs to be around him when it comes time for debate prep, because watching Tulsi take down Kamala Harris in 2020 during the Democrat debates was chef's kiss delicious. Like, it was a masterclass in how you go after someone's record. I mean, Kamala Harris is trying to run on this. She's a strong black woman, prosecutor, whatever. Tulsi Gabbard just completely demolished her in those debates. So my guess is that she's going to be in the orbit of Trump when it comes to debate time. But anyway, her reasoning for supporting Trump was because Trump is a man that is very thoughtful about war and wants to stop the endless wars, unlike these neocons and leftists that evidently are the party of war now. Go figure. And he did everything possible to go through diplomatic channels. Again, what did Barack Obama warn Trump about? He said there are two people you need to watch out for: Kim Jong-un, the leader of North Korea, and Michael Flynn. Why? Because Michael Flynn knows where the bodies are buried from Barack Obama et al. And Kim Jong-un, he wanted to get into World War III. Like, part of Obama's whole thing, Clinton's thing, get us into World War III, get rid of the United States Constitution, usher in the Green New Deal, the Great Reset, the 16-year plan, whatever. We all know what they wanted to do. So when Trump came into office, he's like, you know what? Not only am I going to talk to Kim Jong-un, but I'm not going to do it through official channels. I'm going to write him letters. And those letters are not going to be looked at by the deep state that are still embedded in our government, because, getting rid of that permanent deep state globalist swamp is not just going to take 4 years. It's not just going to take another 4 years. It's going to take a long time. So there's a lot of people embedded in this swamp. So Trump knew we got to go around these people. So he started writing letters to Kim Jong-un. And then what happened? He crossed the DMZ and he talked to him and he shook his hand, and we didn't get into World War III. And so Tulsi said that, Trump is a master diplomatic person here. He scares them just enough to make them think, oh, we never not F with this guy because we don't know what he would do. But he's also willing to talk to people. He's willing to talk and realize that at the end of the day, and this is, I think, this is a lesson that everyone can learn from. At the end of the day, we're all just human beings, all right? We're all just trying to get along. We're all just doing the best we can on this earth. And if people would just talk to each other, we would realize there's more that unites us than separates us at the end of the day. And Trump understands that. And so that's how he was able to keep us out of these wars. But at the same time, maintaining this F around and find out attitude that if you cross us, we will rain down hell on you. So Tulsi was like, this is great, because we had the 3-year anniversary this week of the Afghanistan debacle withdrawal, the Abbey Gate massacre of our soldiers. And not only the killing of our soldiers, but the people, and this is what makes me crazy when Democrats talk about going into endless wars, or neocons like Lindsey Graham talk about, we got to go give $8 billion more to Ukraine, whatever. No, we don't, actually. People do not talk about enough how our warriors come back completely maimed, destroyed, their limbs blown off, arms, legs blown off. They're just left with a torso sometimes. I mean, just horrific injuries, brain injuries. People like Wheelchairs for Warriors, which is a great charity based in Houston. They create these wheelchairs for these wounded warriors that are able to get them to be more functioning like they did before. But what's disgusting is that the people, these armchair generals, these people that send our men and women out there to die, don't even take the time to go and talk to our enemies and our adversaries and to say, where's some common ground we can find here? Well, Trump did that, and he did that for 4 years. And ladies and gentlemen, that is why people like Tulsi Gabbard, who's not some right-winger, just like Kennedy's not some right-winger, that's why they're supporting Trump, okay? That's why they are on the Trump train. Now, speaking of Afghanistan, Trump went and visited or went to the 3-year anniversary this week of the Afghanistan debacle. The families of the people who were killed invited Donald Trump to come to Arlington. They did not invite Joe Biden, who again is on yet another vacation, sleeping on a beach in Rehoboth, or Kamala Harris. Didn't invite either of them. Now, should the sitting president and sitting vice president, had they had any decency whatsoever, they would have said, with all due respect, I am the sitting president. She's the sitting vice president. We want to be there to pay our respects to you and your family. We hear you, and we hear your frustration about my administration. They didn't even have the decency to say, we would like to be there. No, they invited Trump, and Trump came. Now, of course, people like the Daily Beast, who I get their daily news letter from because it's just ridiculous. Daily Beast like, oh, there was an altercation at Arlington National Cemetery with Trump's video crews, and Trump was there trying to get some B-roll for his campaign. And so the families had to come out and say, hey, a-holes, we invited him, and we invited his camera crews in. So enough with the trying to get a gotcha on Donald Trump. We invited him, and he was respectful. He listened to us. He remembered their names. He knows their stories. Donald Trump has what Joe Biden, Kamala Harris could only wish for, which is genuine integrity, a genuineness, he's a real person. He's a real guy. And so when the New York Times talks about him being unhinged, I mean, again, they've said that about me too. It's because he's real, because he's genuine. He tells you what he really thinks. He's not running it through a bunch of focus groups to see what a bunch of focus groups say, like Kamala Harris is doing. He's from the heart, and that's why the American people love him. Now, not coincidentally, the disgusting Jack Smith, who is becoming more skeletal by the day. I like to say that the body positive types are eating their feelings. Jack Smith is clearly not eating his feelings. He's being eaten up. He's being eaten up inside by the evil he is doing, because he's getting skinnier and skinnier. He looks more skeletal by the day. Coincidentally, he just happens to be back as RFK and Tulsi Gabbard, and more black men and women jump on the Trump train. Oh, I forgot to even talk about why people are leaving the Democrat plantation. Let me remind myself, people getting off the Democrat plantation and Jack Smith. I'm going to get to those two things in the last segment. All right, you are listening to Angela's Soapbox. I will be right back. Welcome back to the final segment of this week's Angela's Soapbox. Okay, before I get to what I want to talk about, people getting off the Democrat plantation, number one. Number two, I wanted to, what else? Oh, Jack Smith, duh. Skeletor. Before we get to that, I wanted to read you just a soup song from the Daily Beast's meltdown over RFK Jr. Now, COVID, they're trying to make COVID come back again, right? This week, Daily Mail had this whole article about how, schools are cases are rising, so we gotta lock down and mask up the kids again. Get this theater going. And isn't it disgusting how these people always use the children? They claim to care about kids. No, they don't. No, they effing don't. Because if they did, they would not turn their brains into mush with this nonsense they are doing to them. Anyway, so they're trying to ramp this up again because monkeypox isn't working, bird flu isn't working. They've got to figure out a way to get the mail-in ballots, and they'll do it in the blue states. Like, you know they will. They're like, we got to mail everybody a ballot, so we got to just flood the zone during early voting and election day. But anyway, they're trying to bring back COVID. Everything that us the branch COVIDians have said and done has been total, BS from the jump. Like, obviously, they've been lying about everything. If you go along with this at this point, if you're one of these people that likes to hate watch me or hate listen or whatever, if you are one of these dum-dums who rolled up your sleeve, got your vaccine, got your boosters, wore your mask, but yet you're still getting the Rona, or I don't know, you're coming down with cancer or blood clots or myocarditis or all these strange things that I'm sure have nothing to do with your precious vaccine. And if you go along with this again, you want to be lied to. You want to be a sheep. You want to be told what to do. So, the Daily Beast, with the embrace of RFK Jr. Now, RFK Jr., here's what he's good at. He's great at this public health thing. I love this. I love this idea of put this guy who's 70 years old and looks fantastic. He's in amazing shape. Put this idea in charge of getting these fat kids off their butts and these fat people who have tried to gaslight you and the masters of the universe trying to gaslight you into thinking that fat is healthy in order to create a population that is woke, fat, lazy, angry, confused, and compliant. Create those people so that they are easily controlled. That is the whole point of the body positive movement, okay? It's also to make sure girls don't get married because no guy wants to be with a fat girl. Let's keep it 100. Anyway, I digress. So RFK is great on that. He's fantastic on the vaccines. He wrote a great book called The Real Anthony Fauci. I've read portions of it. It needs to be made I think it is a documentary. I'm not 100% sure on that. I frankly can't believe they would have let it be streamed, but maybe if it's not created yet, it needs to be, because, reading a book is like, who has time to read a book anymore? And, funny, I used to be such a reader, and now I'm at night trying to read some more. I've got Hamilton open. I just started Madame Bovary. I'm trying to read, try to read again. Like, I miss reading, but I'm also, there's a million things going on. All right. So here's the headline from the Daily Beast. And then I'm going to get to the Democrat plantation and the Jack Smith stuff. I'm just going to be able to touch on it because we don't have a lot of time. Why Trump's campaign embraced RFK Jr. after calling him a lefty loony. Oh, no, that's not the one I wanted. Where was this? Sorry. That is not the one I wanted. Hold, please. It basically has to do with the vaccines. Hang on. Here we go. Here he is. Okay. Top donor slams Trump for embracing anti-vax loony RFK. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, so sorry, my battery pack went out there. I had to do some quick changing. Okay, here's the headline. Okay, again, RFK Jr. has been great on the vaccines. Honestly, one of the unintended consequences of what they did to us during COVID and what they're trying to do again is that more and more people woke up to this idea of, maybe we don't need to vaccinate our kids for every little thing. Like, I'm on board with vaccines that have been tested and, have had years of efficacy, like the polio vaccine or measles or rubella, or like the early, the ones that are like established, smallpox, etc. But like this other crap, like, I don't know. Like some of them, like meningitis, it sounds so scary, but then they're like, oh, lots of weird things are happening from all these vaccines. Again, if you would have told me 6 years ago, 5 years ago, that I would be like on more, like if there's a continuum here, right? And in the middle is like, I'm neutral about vaccines. Like I was more on the side of pro vaccine 5 years ago. Now I'm more on the side of anti vaccine, like all vaccines. Certainly the COVID vaccine, I'm not going to take. And I just want to remind everybody that we should have all been dead by now. If you didn't take the vaccine or your boosters or your masks or, stand behind the plexiglass or stand 6 feet apart, we should all be dead, shouldn't we? Anyway, here's the headline from the Daily Beast because it's too good. Okay. Top donor slams Trump for embracing anti-vax kook RFK Jr. So one of Nikki Haley's donors, one of these never Trumpers who's like, I'm going to reluctantly vote for Trump now. His name is Eric Levine, a former backer of Nikki Haley who said this spring he'd, quote, reluctantly vote for Trump, assailed the former president for embracing the pair of, quote, fringe politicians in an email made public on Wednesday. So, yeah, RFK Jr. is now fringe. He's got a bunch of his family members going after him. Like, how dare you? How dare you support Donald Trump? Be an independent thinker, RFK Jr. But it's just a coincidence, I'm sure, that RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard supporting Trump just so happens to coincide with the cadaver Jack Smith bringing charges against Trump again for January 6th. So basically, the Supreme Court said, Trump has immunity for these official acts. He has immunity, and you can't go after him for things that he did as president. If he's acting in a presidential manner, looking into, I don't know, widespread election fraud, widespread election interference. I don't know, the 51 intelligence agents saying that the Hunter Biden laptop was fake, or Mark Zuckerberg now admitting that, the government did tell Facebook to censor people who had questions about COVID or the election. Yeah, the Biden administration was telling us to shut that stuff down. And, the 51 intelligence agents did tell us to make sure to say it was Russian disinformation. So we throttled that. I mean, I cannot with these people. So now, So Jack Smith is now back saying that he's going to be coming after Trump again. They've tailored this indictment to make it pass the smell test for this DC grand jury that's 99% made up of swamp dwellers. And now they're going to go after Trump again. I mean, that's not election interference at all. I mean, everything is totally kosher. Now, in the last couple minutes we have left, very, very quickly, some of the big reasons that I think that black men especially are coming off that Democrat plantation, which Kamala Harris is going to have a problem reaching those men because they're not stupid. They've been pushed out of their families for so long. They've been told by Democrats that they're not needed, that they shouldn't marry their baby mamas, and they should just keep having kids with whoever else. And it doesn't matter if you live in the home or not because the government's going to take care of your kids. Well, a lot of these men are realizing, actually, this has been incredibly destructive to the black community. I'm not saying just black men, black women too. Certainly, black people who are in the church, who are Christians, who have woken up to this idea that, why are Democrats telling us not to get married? Why are Democrats telling us to look to the government to support our families? Why are Democrats destroying the public school system? Why are Democrats telling us that the playground to prison pipeline is something that the Democrats, they're acting like they didn't create that when they 100% did. So Trump's saying that we should get rid of the Department of Education. And of course, every Democrat going, clutching their pearls and screaming at the sky about it. Well, a lot of Black people are like, actually, it's not a bad idea. Because what has education done to the Black community? They can't read, they can't write, they can't do math. There's gangs, there's Black on Black crime, there's abortion clinics in every Black community. Like, why not try something different? So yeah, I think we're going to see 20%. If Trump gets 20% of the Black vote, all bets are off here. And that's one of the reasons they picked Kamala Harris, and that she's made this, old switcheroo with her identity, acting like she's Black all of a sudden when she was raised Indian. She was raised in Canada by very wealthy parents, and her father was a Marxist professor. So, okay, like they're doing too much. I think at the end of the day, if this debate ends up being a disaster for Kamala Harris, which it very well could, they're going to have to swap her out somehow at the end. Like at fourth quarter, fourth down, at the 1 yard line, they're going to have to swap her out. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Like, I'm always curious to hear what everyone is thinking, because sometimes I feel like I'm just, talking to the air here. But if you're watching this, comment down below or comment on a video that I put out. Like, let me know what you're thinking. Like, do you think they're going to swap her out at the last minute, or are they going to really go through with this lady? Because it's going to be something. But I will say this. I do not think Trump should underestimate her. She was a prosecutor. She was attorney general. There are moments, certainly when she was senator, I can think back of some of her questionings on Capitol Hill, where she doesn't sound like a complete moron. So I would say do not underestimate her. And JD Vance, do not underestimate Tim Walz. Be prepared. Go in there, guns blazing, and destroy them. Destroy them. Show them for the naked, dumbass Marxists that they are. But do not underestimate them, because they're going to have their talking points and they're going to be ready to go. All right, guys, that's my time for this week. Obviously, I didn't get to lots of stuff, so come back next week. We will continue this journey together. By the way, I've hired a social media team, which, thank God, because my sad little videos need a lot of help. And hopefully in the next few weeks, you're going to start seeing some different looking kind of content from me, which I'm really excited about. I'm more than willing to learn how to do things better. And I'm very excited to be partnering with View Movement to help me, because Lord knows I need it. And, I say what you want about me, but I'm not afraid to ask for help when I need it. And I think that's the mark of people who have self-awareness, which Trump has self-awareness, Vance has self-awareness. Kamala Harris doesn't seem to have that much self-awareness, but we'll see how all that goes. All right, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I do appreciate it so much. Please like, subscribe, share this video, share this podcast with your friends. And until next time, everybody, keep kicking ass and taking names. Peace!